We are live.
Oh my god!
God, that's amazing.
Thank you to Dave Kirscher, who's in the chat. He's the one who sent us that this morning. It was
God.
I never laughed so hard.
It was good.
Yeah.
So good.
Last time I saw that, and that was redeemable. That was really good. Jesus, it never looked so good on camera.
Oh, it was great. I just, when I first started watching that, I was like, oh, I love jib jabs. I used to make those all the time. I'm like, oh, this one came out really good. And when Renee popped out of the jacket, of the box, I lost my shit. I was like, oh god, that's amazing.
Always wanted to be a Jack in the Box.
I think it's the most accurate representation of us that I've ever seen.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, happy non-denominational holidays to everybody.
Yep.
As we join to celebrate the multicultural, multi-religious, non-specific holiday plus Festivus.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
for the rest of us. So
Great opening.
Yeah, so I think this time the plan is to catch up on some questions that we have in their backlog that we never have time to answer. But first, we have to give a special shout out to the sponsor of the program, which is the t-shirt. Beautiful t-shirt in the bottom right corner of your screen, which you should go now and purchase over at Teespring. There's a link in the video description. And all that.
you better go now because you can't keep them on the shelves. Like they're flying off the shelves right now.
Very limited quantity.
Yep.
And if you call in the next 30 seconds, we'll throw in nothing at all.
But yeah, 100% of the money that you spend on those awesome shirts that make you look super sexy goes to Toys for Tots. So that would be super cool if you guys do that. Yeah. Let's get into the questions unless you guys had anything else you wanted to talk about first.
No, I think we can get right to the questions. I know there were a lot of people who had a lot of things that they, demanded to have answers for, and well, that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve.
Well, this first one's for you, Mr. Voltar, I think.
Jesus.
What desoldering station do you guys prefer? Is the ZD915 any good?
I prefer, and this isn't on the market just yet, but I'm working with a few different vendors to hopefully make this happen. The code name for this device, because it's still in a very early beta form, it's called the Lips of Neil. And basically what it is you dial a number on your phone, and Robert Neal shows up to your house with his...
Just sucks it right out.
With his little smoochers.
Is that another Banggood thing that you collect gratuitous amounts of kickbacks?
That's another false thing that you're trying to promote that doesn't exist just to get your kickbacks.
It is a kickback item, but the good news is you don't have to have liquid currency to pay for this. You just have to pay a fee of the shittiest beer made, because Bob only drinks the crap, and so...
Hey man, I love Negro Modelo. I had the good stuff the other day. Negro's medium. I like that.
Bob, let's try to refrain from the racist slurs here, okay? Please.
We're trying to include all cultures in this episode.
I did. I brought two.
What is it called again? I've never even heard of that.
Negro Modelo. It's the same people that make Modelo Especial. It's just dark.
We're gonna get letters again.
No,
Okay, but
speak Spanish.
I'm to seriously answer and address that question. The Z915 is the station that I've used for over over a year. I've used it for about 14 or 15 months now. And just to preface that by saying I have probably well over $1,000 invested in Hakko desoldering equipment, a variety of Hakko desoldering tools. I've since retired those to the garage because there's just no point in paying for the service and maintenance when fortunately, you know, yeah, it's $100 desoldering station, but it's a good clone, and for me and for all the work and all the abuse I put that damn thing through, it's still going strong at like 110 or 115 bucks. The problem with that station is they're not statefully or readily available. Sometimes you'll see them available online, sometimes you won't. So I'm working on a video that will hopefully include a couple of different options that are affordable, that are well within like 120, maybe $130 at the most for competent desoldering tools. So the ZD915, if you can find one. Otherwise, stick around. I have something for everybody.
So could I add just a little bit to that, please? So everything you just said was right, but about 2 years ago, I asked Zach the same question, and he said the same thing. And I said, look, I'm a little limited on space. What about the one that's gun only, not the station with the gun alongside it? And he said that's fine, but, you know, it's probably not going to be as good. But, you know, if you know what you're doing, which I don't, it'll be fine. That thing sucked. And anybody who's seen the live stream of me working with it, you know, the Genesis one.
Do.
But, I mean, it was absolutely terrible. And I tried so hard to and it was a $5 difference. So it really was a massive difference.
Stream is down. But, yeah, I mean, totally. The key to any desoldering station, whether it has a mechanical pump, whether it has a pump in the handpiece itself, or if the pump is external, is maintenance. If you don't provide ample maintenance, they're going to destroy themselves, just like the Terminator. I mean, you just have to maintain them. If you don't maintain this equipment, it certainly isn't going to perform very well at all, and the equipment lifespan is going to be cut down drastically if you don't properly service your tools. And that's, unfortunately, that was 80% of Bob's problem with the unit that he sent me, because I cleaned it and maintained and did some maintenance to it. It sucks just fine. The problem, though, with some of these designs is you literally have to clean and clear that pipe after doing maybe 10 or 15 joints or cycles. That's really what it comes down to, is maintenance. And Bob doesn't even know how to solder hardly, so I can't.
No, I didn't realize it was that intense. I understood trying to clear it out before each use, or before and after each use, but I didn't. You know, obviously you take the canister out and you shake it out, but I didn't realize that other one required that much. And the one I have now, I've used it because it works so well. I've used it more than I ever did the other one, just in the 3 weeks that I've had it. That is all I do, is I clear the main thing before and after each time. I take out the thing and tap it out, so any of the solder that's been in there. And so far, so good. Is there anything else people who own that should be doing, Zach?
What do you mean in respect to what?
General maintenance. Just clear every time that you before and after use, and then obviously just empty out the canister.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of daily maintenance, or it's a matter of just maintenance before you turn that thing off. Take your cleaning wands, take your cleaning rods, clear the tube out, or clear the heating stem. Make sure that's clear and fine, and also remove the Pyrex or the plastic canister and just knock it out. The idea is to keep it as clean as possible and to get it as clean as possible after every use. And if you do that, if you spend the 3 or 4 minutes to do that properly at the end of each session, that tool will never fail you. Other than replacing an element and a heating element in a couple of years, that tool will perform very well.
All right. Well, I'll continue to do it. It's already been light years better. So between that and the soldering station that you recommended, which is, by the way, that's why I'm so comfortable busting your balls about that, because it is very obviously as good as you said it was. I've doubled my skill in the past couple of weeks just because I've already been practicing with all the subpar tools for years. Now I jump into the good shit, and I'm soldering like I should be after all these years of doing it. You know.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that. You know, I've received a lot of emails from people who have purchased that soldering station per my recommendation, and 95% of them have just been overwhelmingly positive that they've had tremendous success with using it, and it's really helped them in their abilities. The great thing about that station is that it really helps. It augments one's poor soldering technique. If their soldering technique isn't very good, the station and that handle can compensate for a lot of bad practices. It really can. So if you're shitty soldering on a Radio Shack iron or something like Bob was using, and you grab one of those, you'll immediately jump up in terms of what you can do and what you can't do. And Banggood, I don't think Banggood ever expected to move that kind of volume. I mean, they're not moving tremendous amounts of these, but they're moving more than they expected. And a lot of people have asked me, I'm on the list, they're shipping them, but they're not here yet. Do you think this is, are they reputable? They absolutely are reputable. Just hold on. They're waiting for shipments to come in, and everybody, I've talked to them at length about this, everybody's going to get served, and everybody who's put an order in is absolutely going to get a station. So just be patient. Just be patient, and you'll be quite pleased with my penis. That's all I have to say. It's a good station. I'm glad you like it, Bob. Steve, I hope you bought one.
Yeah, but I'm waiting for it. I guess this Dreamcast stuff is just gonna have to wait until that.
Don't blame me.
All right. Should we go on to another question? We have a super chat from Andrew Advent who sent us it was Californian dollars or Canadian dollars. I don't know.
I don't think there's a thing as Californian, Nick. I thought you were smarter than that.
Is there a triple bypass solution for the CDX?
Yeah, it's the ASIC version, right, Renee?
That's the 5660. It doesn't have the real YM on it. It's got the ASIC that.
So it's not the GOAC, it's the ASIC.
That's right. Yeah. There's 3 different bombs for the different revisions of the of the circuits, and I believe Bob is right. The ASIC version is good for CDX. I don't know if anyone's done an install yet, so there might not be any instructions available. But
yeah, I think Ace is in the chat. All you would really need is the installation points for the Mega Amp, and then just tap RGBS from the chip and lift RGBS. So yeah, that's something I really want to look into doing, and I want to do it. Well, I don't want to do it myself. I want somebody more skilled than me to do it. So I think it's going to end up being Zach or Cruz, but yeah, that's something I really want.
Just go to the down to the street and get a homeless person. That should be good enough.
They might do a better job than me. You never know. But yeah, I've already broken more things and be like, Jose, can you fix it, please?
I wonder if there's enough space in the CDX enclosure on the bottom side to do the same type of install that Leon K's been doing, where he's popping it directly onto the DIN connector and not having to route any wires. That would be nice if you could do that.
Yeah, so I thought that installation method was great, and I'm having 2 sent to me. Leon's sending me his Genesis 3, and Ben from iFix Retro is sending me the Genesis 2 that he did with Leon's method. And I want to double check it on a scope, do all my stupid screen caps, and then document it, because if it does work that well, it's perfect. And the only thing is you would have to reroute the capacitor if your cables are sync on composite video, or if you use the HD rectal visions, because that's the cap that sticks out might be too long.
Yeah.
But I think on the CDX, as long as you remove that, it would be fine even on the CDX. But I'll double check.
I just wanted to say something about doing the sound modifications to the CDX. Up until a couple of years ago, there was no documentation on doing an audio bypass on the CDX. And I'm the person who buzzed that whole damn thing out and wrote a pretty comprehensive install document if you want to install like a Mega Amp or the triple bypass. So if I'm pretty sure that's still floating around on the internet, but if you have trouble finding it, contact me and I will submit that installation document to you guys if you're not able to find it out there on the internet anymore. But I remember having to do that because it just wasn't available.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes. Voltar is the greatest person ever.
So while we were saying that, Ace in the chat said that he's never installed a Mega Amp in a CDX, and that he doesn't have any installation diagrams for CDX.
Okay, then he can have mine
up on my site then. Yeah, I'll take yours, Zach, and then I'll sit with somebody who's more skilled than me and take pictures of them doing it, and I'll have the full, easy to follow guide. The guide will be easier than actually doing the mod, so I'll make sure to put all the warnings as usual. So.
Sweet.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great, Bob. Really excited about it. Said nobody.
Great. More work for everybody.
All right, here's a question. I recently listened to the Tom the Maverick Cruise lecture about frame interpolation and how film movies aren't meant to be viewed with this technology enabled. I'm curious to know the underlying technical details of how these soap opera smoothing effects are implemented in TVs and why they damage certain video content. Do you want to take that, Steve?
I'm the one who basically wrote that question.
Well, yeah, it was, the question was...
Ryan was asking that question, and he was phrasing it really poorly, and I'm like, I think I know what you mean, so I wrote the question.
Oh, okay. So the deal there, right, is that you have these movies that are shot in 24 frames per second, and they're being displayed on TVs that were either 30 or 60 frames per second, or I guess now higher potentially. But I guess take the 60 frame per second case. How do you translate that 24 frame per second content onto 60 frames? There's no like even divisor there, so there's this weird stuff that goes on to you can look it up. It's called like 3x2 pull down or 3:2 pull down, which is how they shift from this weird movie frame rate onto something that can display on your TV. And what Tom Cruise was talking about in his video is essentially over the last decade or so, I would say, TV manufacturers have started implementing techniques to essentially fill in those frames in intelligent ways that kind of creates this like smoother, what they call soap opera effect. It's almost always a default on your TV turned on. So like as soon as you get a TV, like every time I turn on a new TV, I notice it. It's like, oh man, this looks atrocious. Really bothers me. Some people like it. I don't know why, but in any case, that's what they're talking about. When those intelligent features that are processing the video to kind of create this more filled in set of frames.
I think the easiest example is to think of as 120 hertz because that's an even map of just 5 to
5
1
times 24. Yeah.
And so you have what normally is done where you duplicate the same frame 5 times.
Yeah.
Now you have room to work with. You could fill that in with, like you
fake
said,
frames. Yeah.
Fake
so
frames.
I guess the equivalent in the in a single image space is what the movie producers would want you to do is essentially like a nearest neighbor thing. So what something like the OSSC or whatever your line doubler of choice does, where you're just copying lines and you get the same thing duplicated 5 times versus an interpolation method where you're creating a smooth contour between your lines of video. Except now this is done over time instead of over space. So you're filling in new frames, you're creating frames to create a smoother transition between frame 1 and frame 6. You're creating the ones in between.
So for all of these TVs that you pick up, in fact, even my OLED TV had all this stuff on default. I think the reason that they ship default like that is so that the Best Buys, the Walmarts, the Targets of the world can put these TVs up, plug them into their garbage, lossy distribution systems, and get it to look decent enough from 100 feet away in one of these big stores up on the wall. And I got to admit, I think there was some standard def broadcast that it did help. But 99.9% of the time, the best thing you could do on any new TV that you buy is just turn off every single processing feature that it has. Every single one.
Well,
so noise reduction, all that crap.
It's the same reason why they blast the gain out to Mach 90 when you go and look at the wall garden of TVs, say at Best Buy or something, and everything's so bright. It's because brightness plays a trick on your eyes.
Not
And you
only
think
that, but you're usually in like a warehouse type building with giant bright lights, and you're
Huge
next to a
fluorescence.
bunch of other TVs, and it's like
Right.
not the optimal viewing environment. But I mean, that could easily be fixed, right? There are TVs with like store or demo mode where you could just have all that crap on,
Right,
and
right.
then when a consumer buys it, you don't have that.
I think the most egregious thing, which I don't know if they've fixed yet, is the default mode is on some weird thing where it's always trying to calculate if it should do it or not, and it's always like switching in between the two. And I notice it a lot.
That's
like
for the frame interpolation or something else.
I think it's the frame interpolation where there's like different settings. There's not just off and on. There's like off, moderate, or full or something like that. And I noticed that a lot when like a side view where somebody's walking across and there's like columns like in front of them. It like kept switching back and forth as it's following these people through that.
So I've seen
and it was
that
very bizarre.
with they sometimes call it like dynamic backlight or whatever, where they're changing kind of that feature depending on content on the screen, and it looks like absolute ass.
And that's just the contrast. I'm talking about like it changes like the algorithm mid processing. It changes either it completely jumps to another one, or it's doing like some type of alpha thing where it's gradually switching back and forth. And I think that's the worst. I think it's either full on or full off.
Yeah,
is way better because you at least know what to expect.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you just said.
cool. Well, I hope that covers it for Ryan then.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you saying that it's the most egregious thing. I think that goes to the fact that a Scientologist actually said something that made sense.
This is non-denominational.
That Tom Cruise video was awesome, though. I really enjoyed it.
I didn't watch it. When somebody sent me that, I thought they were kidding, so I just deleted the thing.
Oh, no, you should totally watch it. It's hilarious. It's like Tom Cruise talking like our language that we kind of, would have on this podcast.
He is really good at memorizing lines, so I imagine he delivered it perfectly.
I think Bob just ignores everything Nick sends over.
I didn't send that to Bob.
I watched the mail bomb thing, or the package bomb thing. That was great.
The what?
Yeah.
The
glitter bomb.
Glitter bomb.
Oh, the glitter bomb. Yeah. I was like, what?
I'm the one who ignored that.
What did I send you?
I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah, that was floating around on Twitter. It was pretty cool.
I'll have to check it out later.
Marvelous feat of over-engineering.
Is Dave still in the chat? Dave, you still there? Because I know he was going to bail early, and he wanted to see Renee's performance.
Yeah, he's in for a half hour.
Oh, shit. He just said he's going to go. Can you hang out another minute,
Can
Dave?
you hang out for a performance? Or should we just save that for a little later in the episode?
No, I want to do it now. Let's do it now. Come on, Renee, do it.
Well, if he's leaving now, I mean, it's just teasing him anyways, right? So.
No,
he's got 1 minute. He's got a minute.
No, it takes like 4 minutes. He's not going to be able to.
Yeah, it's a 4-minute performance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Put that at the very end because that's going to be boring as hell. Then if it's 4 minutes, so
it takes a little while. I mean,
no, it's not going to be boring. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But if Dave's got to leave now, we'll save it. We'll do a couple more questions first, and he can watch it in the replays. Okay. What are your recommended HDMI matrix switchers? I feel like that's a Bob question, but I don't know.
I just found one for $50, 6x2. It breaks out optical and 3.5 millimeter, just regular stereo audio. And the only it's a matrix switch. But the only problem is I can't get audio to work over the HDMI cables. So for my setup, it's actually...
It sounds like a strong recommendation.
Well, it's only $50, and for my setup, but I imagine a lot of other people's, it doesn't matter, because I have, output number 1 is my TV, so I could use optical audio to my stereo, and output number 2 goes to my data path capture card that doesn't have audio anyway, so $50, totally perfect for me. Dave's actually been doing some research on this. He bought a bunch of stuff.
Can you drop that link into the chat or something?
Yep. Let me grab that in 1 minute. But yeah, and there was a few others. In fact, let me just drop the link to Dave's topic on specs, because that has a lot of the things that we've been talking about in there, and it's been pretty cool to see what different people found. But I also found like a 12x2, and there was a whole bunch of different stuff in there.
Well, hold on a second, Bob. Let's talk about something that's actually kind of cool when we're talking about this. Where was it? Are you the shmups thread that you're talking about? Is that the same shmups thread? Damn, what was it? The guy made sort of like, he took a Raspberry Pi or something, and he made like his own HDMI switcher, and he could like program like little pictures that this port's dedicated to the NES and this one's dedicated to the Super NT. I can't remember where I saw that, but it looked amazing.
No, that was completely different. But yeah, that you saw that on the best podcast in the retro gaming world, the Retro RGB Weekly Roundup, and yeah, that guy. He built his own. They worked great, but there was only one output, and it didn't break out audio. So.
I see. Well, boo-hoo. No one cares. I don't need two outputs, Bob, because I'm a real man. Jesus, I'm gonna get letters.
What was the HDMI thing that the monoprice thing that you were showing?
Hold on, I'm almost there.
No, Zach showed.
Oh, me?
The monoprice thing.
I have a couple of these, and there was a bug with my Vizio, because Vizios are shit. I've changed my opinion since as of late, because that's a whole other story. But this is a let me pull up so I can actually see what I'm showing you guys here. This is an 8 input, 1 output HDMI switcher, and I've got this to support 4K up to 422. I don't have any higher bandwidth 4K video options here to try with this, but it's an 8-port switcher. It does have RS-232 control, and I don't know. I guess I got these for maybe $70 a couple of years ago. But if you don't need two outputs, this is a fantastic little. The only thing I don't like is that there are green and red LEDs here. Oh, it also has a remote too, so you can control this wirelessly. But the LEDs are so bright, I would either go in and take some resistors and modify the current limit the LEDs a little more so they're a little more dim.
Electrical tape.
Or just electrical tape over the over these little windows here. But yeah, you can either control this by pushing the buttons, or with the remote it comes with, or if you have an RS-232 hookup, you can do everything through that. So. Pretty good little switch though for what it was back in the day. I still use mine.
Back in my day, we got up, unplugged the HDMI cord, and plugged in another one. You guys are so spoiled.
That's what I'm saying. I've been saying that. You know what I'm saying?
I had a lot of consoles as a kid, and I had this giant chain of RF adapters just connected one into each other.
Auto switching, baby.
No switching required.
That's so funny. I should do a spoof video on an auto-switching retro gaming setup and just have all of them through RF.
That's the best way to go.
You could do it with the these really cool things called the HD Retrovision component cables. You could split them into one input and they'll auto-switch.
We have a Dreamcast cable that we have a prototype of.
You should play the trailer at the end, Nick.
I don't save any of your videos, Bob. I saw a few questions fly by in the chat. We will, if you stick around till the second half of the program, we'll be answering chat questions. We still have
if they haven't canceled us, then we'll.
At this pace, we're never going to get through this, but. Let's see. Here's a more lighthearted one. Of the group, who would you say is the most all-around skilled video game player?
Steve.
That's definitely not me.
It's definitely a toss-up between Steve and Renee here. I don't know. It would probably depend on the game.
Well, it says all around, so.
Yeah, so I mean, hard to answer.
I haven't been playing a lot of games lately. I don't know. I think Yeah, I
I've
mean,
seen Renee crush it at Metroid, Super Metroid, and I've seen Steve crush it at Mega Man X. So
but
We
that's the
definitely
only
haven't
game I'm
seen.
good at.
We definitely haven't seen Nick crush anything with his live streams. So.
that's right.
Or Bob, for that matter. Bob was really lazy last time, though. He couldn't even burden himself to turn his fucking mic up. I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna lie. I lost all interest in that the moment you had the whole joke of you were playing Mega Man while I was playing. I lost all interest in that whole thing. I almost
Really?
just logged off. Yeah, because I didn't have time to do that. I didn't have time to set up the stream. I was working on the Woozle project, and I was trying to cancel the Roundtable, but you guys were all verbally abusing me until I did it. So I was like, fine, let me just suck it up and do it. And then when you jumped on with the Mega Man, I was like, why am I even here? I should
Well,
just
Bob,
log right off.
Thank God this is the last episode ever. It's over. It's over after this.
He like played Mega Man for like a minute and a half.
Still, I know it was. Hey, look, man. Everybody has their moments where they act like a whiny bitch, and that was mine.
Well, I'm so glad. I am so glad I did it then.
Yeah.
It was worth it. Okay, on to the next question. Seriously.
Okay, so I don't know what this one's in reference to, so we might have to skip it unless somebody here remembers. They asked, and this was on our previous video, without naming names, unless you want to, what Turbografx board were you talking about?
Wait a minute. How far back are we going here?
Yeah.
We've
Well,
talked.
This
and
was
are you
the
talking about the mod, the board, like.
Yeah, so
Read
I'm
it
not
again.
sure.
Just read
This
it
is
again, Nick.
Oh, I think this is the thing where the output was shorted to ground. The THS output was shorted.
Oh,
to
are you
ground.
talking about the Hill design board?
Mm,
Bob, whatever happened? I mean, first of all, it's not the dude. Well, let's not get into that. What's
well,
ultimately
let me
come
just-
of that?
Let me just spit this out. And you know what? I didn't want to. This was supposed to be a drama-free episode, so I'm just
This
going to
isn't
spit it
drama.
out.
This is just reality,
Um,
Bob.
The
You
person
haven't
who
heard my song
originally
yet.
sold those. The person who originally sold those stopped selling them last year, and felt so bad that everything happened that he reached out to a lot of people, did some thermal testing, and it's not going to overheat the chip to the point where it's still within the temperature tolerances. And the original person who sold them is not selling them anymore, but the person who he paid to do the design sold them to Retro Gaming Arts, who's still selling them. So don't buy that board from them. Don't buy the PC Engine board from them.
Who's that? Who was that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name.
Helder sold the design to Retro Gaming Arts.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to drop the original person's name because I don't think he did anything wrong, and I think he bent over backwards and did everything in his power to try to make this right. So I don't want to shit on anybody that doesn't deserve it, but I don't know if it was okay for that board to be resold a second time, meaning the design, especially considering where it came from.
But if you know what's wrong with it, they could just lift that pin, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. So like if they can keep selling the board, it's just rework all of them really quickly, lift the pin.
Right. Sorry guys, I'm still getting over this bad fucking cold.
Or cut the pin might be better.
I
So
mean,
that's pretty.
a decent modder worth of shit could easily, I would use a microscope because I'm lazy, but I'd just go underneath, lift that fucking pin, some flux, add some heat, put either Zach likes the X-Acto knife or something that small. I might select my dental pick. It's 2 seconds worth of work, but the point is, if you paid to do the mod or to buy the board and do the mod yourself, you probably have the skill to do that. If you paid somebody else to do it, that sucks for you because that means you probably either don't have the time, the skill, or the desire to do any of that.
So do you know if that? So I mean, I would assume that board is still being sold, as you said, by other channels.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's not good.
But I don't know. I don't keep in touch with those people. I have no idea. Sorry. Maybe they saw this whole thing go down and just say, "Oh, no problem. I'll lift all the pins. Problem solved. We're done." Who knows? But
That would be really arrogant, Bob. That would be really arrogant to say that. That's
What?
really arrogant of you. I'm just making as much sense as other people. Just go with it.
Oh. So
let's just get through the fucking formalities. I want to say, Bob, I'm tired of your arrogance. I'm
Okay.
tired. I'm
I
tired.
thought we
of
were
your
doing the airing of grievances later.
Shut up, Nick. I'm not done. I'm tired of your braggadocious demeanor, and quite frankly, Bob, Alcoholics Anonymous isn't working for you. We got to figure something out.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think Bob he's been setting a new record for being in Alcoholics Anonymous for the longest period of time.
Without sobering up.
Thousands of people watch this, so it's far from anonymous.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm glad. Okay, so that's amply answered that question.
Yeah, and that was actually very, very funny, Zach. That was one of those things that's extremely funny, but not like haha funny, but funny. Well done, sir.
He's still funny. He's still funny, but not ha funny. Krusty the Clown.
Oh God! Now you're making gay jokes, Steve. Come on, seriously.
All the gay people will get them.
All right. How the fuck do you guys only
that's
have
fucking fair.
1.8k subs? The answer to that is.
What was the question?
Did you hear Bob? It's fucking fair.
I got two of my friends in the other room. Would you like me to have them come in and explain why that joke was so funny?
I'm sorry, Nick. I don't mean to derail this, but this is the best show. This is the best entertainment on YouTube.
Oh yeah. The question was, how do you guys only have 1.8k subs? I was gonna answer because Voltar won't share any of his 50k subs.
I would answer because Zach scares people away.
He's got the most subs out of all of us.
I think the real answer is Zach hacked the YouTube backend, so when somebody goes to hit subscribe on our channel, it redirects them to his channel.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm hearing nothing but flawless logic right now. I got to be honest with you all. This is very sound. That is interesting. I often wonder myself, why does this abysmal
you're so great?
That doesn't take much curiosity to figure out. But why does this abysmal podcast have less than 2,000 subscribers? It's like there has to be an answer here, because I think the content is pretty good for the most part, but maybe we're not doing enough marketing here for it. Maybe we're not doing enough. I don't know. Maybe we're just not doing enough.
We've put in at least as much effort as Adam Korlick, and he's like 99,000 subscribers ahead of us.
We at least make sure our mics and camera are working before we start the podcast. So I feel like we put a little more effort because there's 5 of us that have to do that.
I feel that's very rude to Adam, and I don't quite appreciate that.
That was arrogant of me. I know I need to just step down from my my narcissistic podium.
The next
Can't
time,
tell him how to do his job.
The next time Adam has another live chat, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to not only talk shit to him, but I'm going to ask him about this, Bob, and see what he says about it. And I'm going to tell him that you sent me.
Yeah.
You sent me there.
I think it's strange that we've sold way more T-shirts than we have subs. These things are like out of control. They are going to be out of stock any second now.
Yeah.
So you better go get it. You better go get your T-shirt.
Yeah.
Link in the description. Buy the T-shirt. Profits to charity. We don't get any money. Please do it right now. And on that note, here's another question. This one's for Steve. And I'm not going to read the whole question because it's too long. So I'm just going to put it this way. What's your problem with Analog marketing their products as having FPGAs, bro?
But the rest of the question had the context that matters. So the question was in reference why is it not okay for them to just say they're using FPGA when versus software emulation? And I think the point was missed because I was comparing FPGA implementations with ASIC implementations, which are both hardware emulation. And the reason why the FPGA solution performs better is because of the person behind it. They could have very well made updates aside, field updates aside, they could have very well made those out of an ASIC and produced an ASIC that wasn't an FPGA. And then you have this new ASIC, which is not an FPGA, perform
Just
way
as
better
good,
than
yeah.
those, way better than those at NES on a chip old
Yeah.
funky ASICs. So my point was that it's more of who is behind creating the tech and doing the R&D versus the actual thing, because it is just weird for me, like people like me and Renee who have been exposed to FPGAs for a decade, where it's like saying, oh, this is microcontroller powered. Like, it's so ubiquitous in electronics design that it's a little weird to just use that, to hear that as the selling point for something.
Yep, I was the
Bob,
first
you're
time I
muted.
worked on an
Don't tell him
FPGA
that,
was
Steve.
in
Don't tell him,
You
Steve.
did.
Fuck!
the first time I worked on an FPGA was in, I guess, my sophomore year of college. So that's 2004, and I never thought of it as like anything. It was just like another tool. So it's just, I guess, weird for me seeing it so front and center. Whereas, I mean, there's tons of other things out there that are sold where you don't really market the underlying technology that's a tool. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't really have a criticism. Like, go for it. Just again, weird.
I think that what Steve is trying to say is there's just as much room for an FPGA derived system to be just as shitty. It's an equal shitty opportunity. The software emulation can be just as bad as the hardware implementation, and the hardware implementation can theoretically be just as bad, if not worse, than the software. It's all a matter of who's behind it. And I understand. The whole thing's been spun up as, I guess it's more like the 21st century blast processing. It's just
what I was saying when I was muted. Damn it.
It's marketing. Yeah.
Blast processing is the exact
Having
example.
said that, Analog has an awesome guy behind it, so
Yeah, and an awesome marketing guy.
Instead of putting FPGA on their box and on their advertisements, they should just put Kevin's face on everything.
Kevtris inside, just a picture of Kevin. I'd buy anything with that on there.
I would too.
I don't think people realize, though, that the first one of these clone consoles that actually used the software emulator was the Hyperkin one, the Retron 5. Everything else before it was all hardware emulation.
And that thing is such a piece of fucking shit. I am so mad.
Looking forward to your video on it.
Real quick, Hyperkin still hasn't responded to me, and I've seen them respond to 1,000 other different jerk-offs, but their piece of shit console has ruined.
They responded to this jerk-off.
Well, fuck off. That's great. But it has wiped saves off of 3 different cartridges now, and I cannot load them back on. And yes, the firmware is up to date on it. That thing, this is 4 years too late. The Hyperkin Retron 5 is a huge piece of shit. And shame on them for ever even offering a feature that they can't statefully offer across the board. Fuck it.
Well, I had a really good theory as to why the Retron 5 does that to your saves, and someone in town was going to lend me their Retron 5, but apparently it has died, and they threw it away. So not only are they horrible with save management, but they're also not reliable, and the consoles die.
That's an abysmal company that should just stick to making controllers. No offense to any executives that have anything to do with Hyperkin or anything like that. It's nothing personal, but your products are ass. Now, Paul over at INL, Infinite NES Lives, I've been working with him a little bit, testing and sort of working on some MMC5 support, but this is his multi-cart dumper, and this is what I'm ultimately going to have to use to get my Mario RPG save back onto the cartridge. It's got Super Nintendo. These might not be in order, but Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64. One of these is Famicom, and the other one's NES. So it's all Lewis script. So you have to do everything with scripts, and you have to edit all these Lewis scripts to get things to work. But he's working on a front end for it. But I like this. This is kind of fun. And when Renee's comes out in 16 years, I'll use his too. But for right now, this is the only thing that I have available that will let me get those saves back on. I didn't mean to go on a diatribe about this. I just wanted to say there's a product out there that can fix things that Retron Hyperkin people just don't care about in life. So that's all I'm saying. Sorry, Nick.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
Can I go on then? Fuck those motherfuckers. Right tight the lasses. I hope they all fucking get fucked.
The only thing I've ever liked from Hyperkin is their controllers. So
I have to be totally honest. Their NES controller and their SNES controllers were both. I have copies of both. Their controllers are fantastic. It's just hardware that they make that's terrible. It's horrible, and I'm not saying that in a negative. Like I'm just a butthurt.
I'm not saying in a negative way, but it's
I'm
terrible.
not saying in a negative way, but the
Don't use
hardware
it.
is ass.
Sad.
All right,
So-
I'm gonna do one more easy question before I pass it to Renee to entertain us.
Entertain us, ain't us? Oh yeah.
The question
I heard it too.
is: this is the best retro live chat there is. Agree. Can you please do it on Friday or Saturday? So I know Bob's AA meetings are on Friday nights, so no on that one. And Saturday is probably just a day that it's the day of rest, right? I guess for Steve.
Obviously.
So we can't do it on Saturday. But yeah, weekdays, middle of the week just tends to work better for all 5 of us. So you can watch the replay.
However, if we could ever get some live in person stuff, I would love. I was trying so hard to finagle a trip out to Chicago when you were out there, Nick, so we could do like a live afternoon edition of the Retro Roundtable or something. But so we will. I would love to try to do that sometime. But
Yeah, speaking of which, I am going to Chicago tomorrow night until Christmas, and me and Steve are planning to hit up a couple arcades, so if people are interested, shoot us a message on Twitter or whatever. We're going to hit up Pixel Blast Arcade in...
Lyle.
Yeah, Lyle. What's the other one? The other one's the newer arcade, right?
Oh, round 1?
Yeah, round 1.
And
So.
it's looking like I might be there on the 29th. So,
Nice.
yeah, sucks, but
Oh, I just one more thing. I'm sorry to hear about that, Bob. No one really cares where you're going to be, but I was going to tell you guys. Unfortunately, I hope this comes through the camera, but this is after cycling 2 or 3 different games. The pins.
Shit, the pins.
The pins are already fucked on the SNES side, and this is after loading Super Mario RPG twice and Contra for the Super Famicom version. I loaded it 3 times. So this is with 5 game cycles. The pins are already badly fucked.
Well, you know what,
My
Zach?
Life in
That's
Gaming
your own
here.
fault.
They said to say hi to Terry over at Pixel Blast. We will definitely do that.
He's the owner.
Corey, whoever's logged in. Yeah, do you know
So
the
anyways,
owner,
sorry.
Steve?
It's Trickman Terry from EGM back in the day.
Oh,
No
okay, cool.
kidding.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you get a photo? Send him a 4x3 photo and I'll sign it and you can give it to him.
I don't know if he has room on his wall for another frame, but he'll probably squeeze it in.
Cool. Okay, great.
All right, Renee, I think I'm queued up for the big the big song.
Do we need to mute? We got to
Be
mute
totally
ourselves.
quiet. Everyone
right?
be very quiet. Let's do it.
Nick is
So,
supposed to mute
yeah.
you guys.
Well, I can't mute.
We could each mute ourselves.
Yeah, we can all individually mute. The only thing is we're all going to be laughing hysterically. So
Well, that's my goal. That's my goal.
yeah.
So I wrote these lyrics yesterday, and I learned the chords.
All right, I'm going on mute and
Like 15 minutes before the podcast. So
Take it
I
away.
may screw it up a bit, but I mean the important thing is that the message and the lyrics get through. So
yeah.
that's what
I
I'm
believe in
counting
you.
on.
We're gonna have some accompanying pictures on the screen, boys, just so you can follow along. I guess
Don't fuck it up, Nick, please.
I'll try
so-
not to.
Yeah, I'll try to take it slowly, Nick, so that you have time to queue up the pictures at the right time. All right.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
So it's a Christmas song, obviously. On the first day of Christmas, my Voltar sent to me a screenshot making fun of me. On the second day of Christmas, Zelda X Pro sent to me 2 shorted contacts and a screenshot making fun of me. On the third day of Christmas, Terra Onion sent to me 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 4th day of Christmas, Metal Jesus sent to me 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 5th day of Christmas, Crick sent to me 5-volt level shifters. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 6th day of Christmas, Badass Console sent to me 6 more weeks, 5-volt level shifters. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 7th day of Christmas, Norm the gaming historian sent to me 7 cans of Brasso, 6 more weeks, 5-volt level shifters. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 8th day of Christmas, Retro RGB sent to me 8 YouTube subscribers, 7 cans of Brasso, 6 more weeks, 5-volt level shifters. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 9th day of Christmas, Adam Koralik sent to me 9 frames of lag, 8 YouTube subscribers, 7 cans of Brasso, 6 more weeks, 5-volt level shifters. Sorry. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 10th day of Christmas, Watermelon sent to me 10 reports of fraud, 9 frames of lag, 8 YouTube subscribers, 7 cans of Brasso, 6 more weeks, 5-volt level shifters. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 11th day of Christmas, HD Retrovision sent to me 11 years till Dreamcast, 10 reports of fraud, 9 frames of lag, 8 YouTube subscribers, 7 cans of Brasso, 6 more weeks, 5-volt level shifters. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me. On the 12th day of Christmas, the Retro Roundtable sent to me 12 more months of drama, 11 years till Dreamcast, 10 reports of fraud, 9 frames of lag, 8 YouTube subscribers, 7 cans of Brasso, 6 more weeks, 5-volt level shifters. 4 hidden gems, 3 noisy circuits, 2 shorted contacts, and a screenshot making fun of me.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Oh, wow. I had to have been on mute. I was laughing and coughing so hard I almost passed out.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, shit.
That was
The
terrific.
6 more weeks thing, the 6 more weeks, that literally killed me. Someone should make sure Badass Consoles is still alive at this point. Oh my god.
I think, Nick, we need to, it's been a few years of the Retro Roundtable, and we need to do something we've never done before. I think for the first and possibly only time ever, we should upload something to the YouTube channel that's not the podcast. I think you should cut just that song out. And I think you should re-upload just that song on the Retro Roundtable YouTube
Yeah, I'm willing
channel.
to do that. I don't have good video editing software, so I mean, if you can download
I got it.
the video
Yep.
and crop
Can it be one of those like things where when you go to the channel, it's that thing that like is at the
first
top?
thing, oh,
like
yeah.
that it starts playing like automatically or whatever.
Yeah,
Oh.
totally. We could do that. That's easy.
Oh, it's amazing.
I had to
it's so
stop
good.
looking at you guys' face because I was laughing too hard. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah, dude, I was dying. That was amazing. Yeah, we will definitely post just that cropped out, and maybe I'll put even the MP3 up on SoundCloud or something.
Totally worth it.
Yeah,
Totally worth it.
nice work, Renee. That was
Very good.
That was terrific.
I had a bit of help from Nick on a few of those verses, but
Thanks
Yeah.
for not spoiling it.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah. I'm so glad this was the first time I heard it. It was amazing. It made it even better.
Yeah, that was awesome.
uh,
So that was a good
But-
summary that was like a year in review of all the fun drama, and I think it's a good reminder that none of this really matters, and it's just stupid kids' toys that we're messing around with, and we shouldn't make that big of a deal out of anything.
except the frames of lag, those are evil.
Yeah, 9 frames of lag, that's criminal.
So,
That's pretty criminal. So I mean, it does put things into perspective and into proper context.
Yeah.
We are all playing with a bunch of kids' toys, and that's really what this all reduces down to.
Does YouTube have genres? Like, do we show up under drama? Because probably what?
It's Keemstar and us in the drama channels. Oh, man, I need to update the sponsor to the Soulja game console. That is.
Oh,
Right.
There we go. That's the sponsor of the next hour.
Also flying off the shelves, along with the cease and desist letters flying all over the place.
Oh boy. Man.
How is
Yeah,
he getting away with this? I mean, I'm dead serious.
Me too. I really want to know that because
He's
the
not some
companies
guy
that
in
sell-
China.
Yeah, the companies that sell like 100, 200, 300 of them, it's worth more for Nintendo to ignore them than it is to spend the money to sue them.
It's not worth
But-
the litigation.
Yeah, exactly. But for somebody like him who's gonna, promote the shit out of this, that's the example you need to make. That's,
And
I'm
he
most
doesn't-
curious, actually, not about Nintendo, because I know Nintendo will eventually come after them if it, takes a while to build whatever legal case. But the Shopify platform, which is allowing this to go on, really surprises me, because they have to be aware of this now. You don't have somebody like that selling on your platform and not know what's going on with it. So it's really weird. I don't know if they're just like not liable and they're willing to just take whatever cuts of this stupid product that they can while it's still around, but I'm very surprised they haven't shut it down.
They probably just need to get asked by Nintendo or whoever first,
Well,
right?
well,
Otherwise,
I mean,
why would they shut it down? Like,
it's remarkable to me that this isn't some guy that's living behind the safe harbor and sanction of China. I mean, this guy's in the States.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
he's easily accessible. He is within the legal grasp of Nintendo's litigation arm, and it's like the audacity or the unmitigated gall to even attempt such a feat. Either he's truly retarded, and I mean that in the fun, stupid sense, or he just doesn't care. I don't know
Well,
how you
I mean,
can do
it would
something like
be-
this and not.
He's not doing this, right? It's the people around him. He's not going out and
That's
searching
even scarier.
AliExpress.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got
Bob,
people
exactly.
around him that are like, yeah, dude, I found this console. We can put your name on it. You can make thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's insane.
It's a high-risk model. I don't know.
it's like that episode of Simpsons when Mr. Burns realized his stocks all crashed and nobody ever told him, and it was like 60 or 80 years ago.
Yep.
No one told me, Smithers. Nobody told me.
I made all the right moves, right? Yeah, yes, sir, absolutely. Every move the right one.
Meanwhile, there's a Nintendo lawyer watching this podcast, and they're like, "Oh fuck!"
I think enough people have tagged in Nintendo on this that they have to be aware of the situation by now.
Yeah, they've got to be taking some action. Maybe it's just not public yet.
Maybe they're busy laughing.
All the suckers buying this crap.
It's just too funny.
Yeah, I give a shout out to Mad Little Pixels channel because he's done some great vids on this stuff. He's actually gone ahead and bought some of these things and even hacked the handheld one apart with an axe because he couldn't get it open otherwise. So he just took like a camping axe and just laid into it. It was pretty awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I guess don't buy the Soulja console.
It's terrible advice.
Go with more questions then? I guess at this point, if there are people in the chat with questions, we can bounce.
Well, when are we going to start having fun?
That's not in the channel
Yeah.
description.
It's not in your
Damn it.
contract.
Let's finish off all the backlog questions and then
Well,
Yeah.
how many are there?
3 more.
Oh, go ahead, do it.
There's a question. Well, I don't know if this is even a question. It says, I bought the DB Electronics SMS Mini and the Mega SG, so I hope it works too, but isn't the SMS attachment coming with it anyways? I
Yeah, could you say that again, please?
so he bought the Renee's SMS Mini. So
Power based
Power
mini.
based mini.
Power Base Mini, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Mega SG, but I guess he's just asking if the SMS attachment comes with the Mega SG.
It doesn't,
it
and
doesn't.
Renee should work with it.
Yeah, I mean, if Capturus is putting all the pins at the right place, then either converter is going to work. Even I think there's an official one in Europe that should fit in there, like the Power Base 2. That should work as well.
Cool. So next question. I don't know if any of us has expertise on this or not. It's about wireless controllers. So Crix claims less than 5 milliseconds with his Bluetooth Genesis controller, but it's actually not
It's not
Bluetooth.
It's not
Yeah.
Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would totally break the Bluetooth standard.
So how do the various RF implementations rank in latency? What are the fastest ones on the market?
Well, I know that Retro USB's wireless controller is, as far as an input latency, from an input latency perspective, I'm pretty sure it's been quantified at some point, but he put it in the hands of the top Tetris players, and the
You're talking about the
was,
clicky NES one, right?
yeah, the Clicky NES with the Clicky NES wireless controller by Retro USB. He put it into the hands of some of the most powerful wizards of Tetris, and the latency between a hardwired controller and the wireless controller was discernible to them. And just to sort of preface that by saying something else, by saying Tetris is a frame critical game when you're playing that competitively. So if they didn't feel the differences, if they didn't feel a discrepancy in latency, I would wager that that's got to be top cock.
Yeah, I was just flashing this because I got really addicted watching those Tetris tournaments at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, it's like I know exactly what you mean now after watching that. Like you're right. It is frame critical. They have one frame to like turn a piece or set up their delayed auto shifting. It's crazy.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna side question. I've been watching these videos, and I guess I still don't understand the one-on-one aspect of it. It almost seems like they wouldn't even have to be playing at the same time. Like what?
It just creates a dynamic that they start at the same time.
It's at the end of the day, it's high score, right?
Well, it's a tension maker. You know what I mean? It's having to perform on the spot.
But to win between the two.
Well, they hear the announcers unless they're wearing headphones, and they'd have to know like how behind they are, because if they just play without knowing where the other person is, then they have to change their strategy. They have to be more aggressive. They can't burn single lines off if they know they're really far behind.
Okay.
On their run.
Gotcha.
So then they have to be more aggressive and like maybe wait a little bit longer for the long bar to come.
That's right.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. But yeah, there's no crossover effect, I guess. Nothing that I'm doing really materially affects my competitor other than knowing my current score or something.
It's just a tension maker is really
cool.
The whole purpose of that. And they're playing the same pieces too, obviously.
Yeah.
They are now, yeah. Like, I really want Bob to try to score an interview with that guy who made the software, because that would be really cool.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, there's so much polish on that.
Is it
It looks so
something
great.
where it's just Tetris with the same random seed or something?
Yeah, there's two things. There's the I think they run like a little Game GE type thing in between. They're using actual carts where they have pre-loaded seeds, and the judge rolls like a 10-sided die at the beginning, and they select the seed for both of them before they hit start at the same time. That's one thing. The other thing is the guy wrote that. I think it's all visual-based pattern recognition, where they're capping the composite outputs, and he's detecting everything and redrawing it in HD. I think that's what's happening, but I would love to see Trey explain that, because he even keeps track of all the stats. Like there's they call it a drought when you don't get the long bar, the eyepiece for a while, and then there's like a red counter that pops up after a while that says how long the drought is, and their Tetris rate percentage and all that stuff is all gathered and overlaid on an HD display for all the viewers to watch.
It's probably just OCRing it. You know, like a fax, like a scanner. You know, object character recognition.
Yeah. That's what it is. I would love to hear.
Which is awesome. I mean, that's amazing.
Hear it explained by. It's Trey. I forgot his last name.
Yeah. Steve, email me that and I'll reach out to him, because I keep trying to remember to do more interviews, and then I get sucked into these projects that I work on, and then I blink an eye and it's next week and I have to do the weekly roundup and forget to do the interview. So please email me that and I'll reach out.
Your videos suck. Oh, I think his last name is Force. I think it's Trey Force.
That's a confusing one.
No, it's if people in the chat haven't ever watched these Tetris competition stuff,
so good.
It's Steve got me hooked onto it, and it's pretty crazy and fun to watch. Especially that new 16-year-old kid who's just an absolute dynamo.
I want to look real quick on my SAN, but there's I think it's a couple of years old now, but there was a phenomenal Tetris documentary where they follow some of these high-level players.
Oh, I love that one.
Oh,
I can't remember the name of it, but oh my god, I wish I could think of it to tell you guys for people who are interested.
I think
Thor
I can look
Opperland was in it at the end, and he ended up beating or getting as high a score as you can get before it resets back to the first. That's the one. Ecstasy of Order.
Yeah, that's it. Ecstasy of Order.
I loved that one. That was really great.
Yeah, God, Bob, you should also reach out to I don't want to spoil it, so I'll just say the first and second place guys from this year. See if you could talk to either of them. Like, it'd be super interesting to just hear how they train and all that. Even if it was a shorter interview, it'd be cool.
The only regrets I've had in the interviews that I've done is that there were a few interviews that I thought were amazing, not because of me, but just because of what the people had to say, the projects they were working on, and the interviews dropped at a time where it didn't get the promotion. So I really want to do all these things, but unless it's a time-sensitive thing where I really want to just get it out quick, I would love to interview all of the people you're talking about, but then wrap it in a way where it's a slightly higher production and promote it. Because I did a few interviews that only get a few thousand, watches on YouTube that deserved to be at a 0 to the end at least. So I would love to do all that. I just, I'm going to need people's help. And I'm going to actually need to get out there, and I want to do it in person for a lot of these people. So please let me know, send me a list of people that you want me to talk to, and I'll try to get to it. But I just want to spend more time and more effort on it, because I felt really bad when there were a few interviews that only got a few thousand views.
Yeah, well, it's because they're not very good. But the point, though, I'm trying to say, the point that I'm trying to make is that actually, what was your question? I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Bob. I'm just giving Bob a hard time.
Real quick, I want to shout out to Riptides, who donated to the stream to tell us that the Mega SG actually does come with a Master System adapter.
Yeah.
And the Girl Geek, who donated to tell us Happy Festivus. So thank you guys for supporting the stream. Appreciate it.
We don't see any of this money, but thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It goes
I just blow it on t-shirts. So one more question we have, and it's a multi.
Thank God.
But
this is a 2-part question. Does anybody remember that from Harold and Kumar?
Yeah.
Kenneth Park, class of 2004 or something.
So this question revolves around Chroma subsampling. Part 1 is did most high-end CRTs of the 2000s with component inputs have decoders that could properly decode and display full color resolution YPB PR, or did they expect 420 or 422?
Great question, Steve.
So there is no 420 in the analog domain. There's only
It's DVD, right?
Well, it would, to push it out analog, you need to get it to 422, like, because analog is a single line and you can only split it up by line, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So yeah, they would up the DVD 420 to 42. But anyway, like the question's kind of interesting because they're assuming that the receiver would try to subsample when it's up to the source device to decide how much bandwidth it spits out. So the receiver is more likely to just be like, hey, the source was supposed to subsample PB and PR, which is effectively, it has a low pass filter at half the frequency that Luma normally has. So I'm just going to assume it did it, and I'm going to just oversample it by 2. So I'm just going to sample everything at full. It's very likely a lot of things did that, but it's also possible that they didn't. So there's no way to know for sure, I guess. There was like a test pattern that me and Nick were looking at a while back that there's an error that happens when you subsample that can't be covered, and it shows up on, I think, the color bar pattern between
the green and
magenta.
Yeah.
There's that transition will not be a
you get like a really dark line down the center, and like
it's Luma leaking into the Chroma signals. It's called what's his face? Charles Pointon in his book has a really good chapter on this. It's called The Principle of Constant Luminance, and it results from that error results from the from how we design our chain from going from like camera to display. Like we switch some blocks around to make things easier. But if you want to look that up, that's where to look that up. I can't go into that right now.
I'd prefer that you did.
That's cool. Okay, part 2 is do the transcoders in the HD Retrovision cables apply Chroma subsampling? No. Question 3 is, did the PS2 apply Chroma subsampling to its game render before its DAC converted it to YPBPR, or did it output non-subsampled?
I don't know. You'd have to run a test on that. Like you'd have to generate some test patterns and test that stuff.
I don't believe that the graphics synthesizer does that. I think that it's all coming out beautiful, super high bandwidth, and that the DAC may do something though. I don't.
Right. Yeah. I think that's what it is. Like you have to test to see if the DAC does anything.
Right. So that's where that's going to rely on.
Yeah, you would need a test pattern to show that maybe either like that thing I mentioned, or ideally the thing that comes to my mind might be like something like the bandwidth test that's in our Genesis and SNES test software, but like made out of magenta and green instead of white.
Right.
And then you could see if those smear into like other colors. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and years ago now, I had double and triple checked that with Steve's help, with the part 2 that Nick answered correctly but kind of skipped right over, in that if you're taking a Super Nintendo and you have a good quality RGB cable and you have the rectals and you use a really good quality monitor or the correct capture software, it's pretty much going to just look the same. It's because sorry, I'm still trying to stop myself from coughing.
Damn, Nick.
Because I did run into an issue where I had one monitor where there was definitely not as good of an image using the component retrovision cables, and it turned out to be the monitor settings, not the cables. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear, because if you buy a set of the rectals and you have color issues, just make sure that you're chasing the right problems. It's not the it's not the cables issue, it's your settings on your RGB monitor.
Well, in fairness, and this isn't a poor reflection on my life in gaming or anything like that, but the comparisons that they made with component always sort of paled sort of poorly to RGB and a lot of their video file episodes, and that was simply because they were using the FrameMeister. And as we all know, the way the FrameMeister handles component video, it's not a very honest representation or honest showing. And so a lot of people were looking at those FrameMeister component captures compared to FrameMeister RGB captures, and there was a stark difference between there, a stark contrast between the differences.
That wasn't a Chroma subsampling thing, though. That's actually, me and Steve explored this a bunch because we were trying to figure out a fix for it. Is that the FrameMeister seems to be doing a color space conversion incorrectly. So going between RGB and YPV-PR, as we've mentioned on the podcast before, you should be able to perfectly do that. Assuming no Chroma subsampling in the YPV-PR space. The problem is, it seems as though the matrix that the FrameMeister uses to convert back to RGB is wrong, and so it's messing some stuff up.
We couldn't find the inverse, though, because I think there was something else going on. Something might have been like saturating or clipping or something like that. So we couldn't really find the exact. There was some non-linear distortion happening.
It's not an easy inverse to find.
So you're saying
for a while.
In layman's terms, what you're saying is that it's not a constant value in the color encoding or decoding matrix that can just be changed and everything looks good. There's something else happening.
Yeah,
you can optimize it is pretty good, so it looks decent, but it's not going to look exactly as good as the RGB.
The only reason I bring that up is because it was unfortunate. Nobody knew these things. I mean, it's really not my life in gaming's fault. This is the device they have. It's really nobody's fault. This is just what you see, and what you see is what you report. But it was unfortunate that it gave the PlayStation 2's component output such a sort of poor name, when the component output of the PlayStation 2, in my opinion, is phenomenal, and that there's nothing wrong with it. So
that urban myth has been going on for way longer than that video. Way longer.
Sure. I'm not saying anything. God, Bob, if you can't keep up with the conversation, just shut the fuck up.
Hey, Bob, you mentioned settings on the RGB monitor. Is that like easy to point out really quick, or is it complicated? Does it have anything to do with the type of component, like Betamax versus SMPTE N10 or anything like that? Because I mentioned previously on the podcast that there's one standard for component video for consumer electronics, but there's like more than 3 for professional, and the one that matches the consumer is called either SMPTE or N10. Called.
The easiest way that I can, the quickest way that I can answer that is that if you have an RGB monitor, especially a BVM that has 1 million settings on it, and you put RGB in and it looks great, and you put component in and it looks terrible, or vice versa, assume it's something in the settings and just start going down the list. Because that's the most important thing to say, because I definitely chased Ghost for a few times. Check your cables without a doubt. That's just like the PS2 thing. As soon as I used a really good quality shielded cables, all of those issues that I saw time and time again were gone. So, yeah, I would just start going down the line of basic things to check. And of course, always just make sure, do basic testing. So if you're using input 1 and input 2, maybe there's a problem with input 2. Maybe if you're using a BVM, there's different cards in each. So there's, I would just make sure that you check all of the things that you should go down the list on. And then that's a really long answer, so I'm not gonna go into that.
Nick has a strong opinion on that, on changing one variable at a time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I lost this for a few years, and I found it again. Steve sent this to me a few years ago, and I keep
Stop
losing
moving
it
it
and
so we
finding
can
it.
see it.
I keep.
Is it?
The Framemeister D terminal.
It's D terminal to component. I've lost and found this thing probably a dozen times in the past few years, but it was on my desk and I just wanted to talk about it. But no, Bob's right. The whole component thing with the PS2, just real quick, that's been a long ongoing sort of bit of internet mythology, and that has sort of unfortunately leaked into other component-esque devices, and I'm just glad that we have the opportunity to really set the record straight. I use nothing but component anymore. I don't own a single SHART RGB cable. Well, I don't have one coupled to any of my main setup anymore, so component is the only way to go, in my opinion. Unless
who do I make the check out to?
Just talk to my associates at Banggood, okay?
Dirty sellouts.
I have a follow-up question for that, Steve. Is you mentioned the color space differences between consumer and professional equipment. Is that related to the two different color space settings that you can set on the OSSC? They have the 601 and the 709. No,
it's resolution.
No.
That's SD and HD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the coefficients for. SD and ED use 601, and then anything above that, HD stuff uses 709, and then the Ultra HD uses like 20 something. It's like 2000.
Yeah, it's
something.
super annoying that they changed it.
but like so many people just use the 709 for the 4K stuff because they're like super close. But the
point being, if you convert one way using one and then invert with another, you're going to be a little bit off.
Yeah, it's typically a problem in scalars because if you're just not scaling anything, you should remain at the same resolution, so you should be using the same coefficients throughout. It's just once you increase the size of or decrease the size of an image, then you have to do a matrix conversion from one to the other.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to get lost in those details. But no, Renee, the thing I was talking about was something else, and it's dealing with the optimal amplitudes and of like PB and PR, and then also offsets on Luma. It's in a book somewhere. It's very complicated, but yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know. No, it's okay. I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to. We were talking about doing matrix conversions between different color spaces. How difficult is it after you do that to reinsert the prime program?
All right, I need to take a break there.
Nobody gets it.
And shout outs to TV's Ben, who donated to the Soulja Game Fund. So that's very much appreciated. I will put that towards purchase of the Soulja handheld. And to Pancake Wizard, who put this towards Bob's sobriety fund, I will use that to purchase Bob another Negro Modelo next time I see him.
What did you say, Nick?
Yeah, somebody asked Nick a question so I can go get another beer.
No, I just wanted to say one thing real quick. Never mind. I don't remember. Oh, I do. There is something I do want to say. Are we going to talk about random stuff that's just kind of fun? Or are we still going to go over this nonsense?
We're done with questions.
We're done with questions. We were going to go to audience questions, but if you want to talk about something before then, go for it.
I mean, it's just something kind of neat that I wanted to...
Before we do that, I need to switch sponsors to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which we're all looking forward to seeing when it comes out. So we'll throw that up on the screen.
So I talked to the box office today, and tickets are flying off.
Yeah.
Is that Pepsi Man wearing a Sonic costume?
Yeah, that's right. Can't wait for that movie to come out. So sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, this is nothing real. This is just something kind of interesting. First of all, I'm going to do the old Tim Worthliston trick where I take and do the NES RGB install without using any of those adapter boards or anything like that, because the NES RGB on an original Famicom, if you do it the new way, the eject mechanism doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to install this kit totally via hand job with no boards or supplemental pieces to help me. And I was looking at something. This is a GPM. I'm sorry. This is a GPM 02. It's not going to focus. Mainboard revision of the the Famicom. And I was looking at the audio circuit because this motherboard revision, unlike the other Famicom revisions, the audio is a little shittier, it's a little louder, and it's a little more muffly. Well, the circuitry is identical to all other Famicoms with the exception of one resistor that controls the feedback on the op amp or the inverter used. So basically you change one resistor, the audio sounds almost identical with the exception of it's a little more muffled. And I was looking at the audio circuit of this thing, and if I can pull this up, maybe I can zoom in here. This is pretty interesting. I was going to show Ace this a while back. Let's see. Actually, oh, that works out pretty well. Okay, so check this out. This is really bizarre. So audio comes off of pin 46 of the cartridge slot, which is right here. Do you see this big thick track? That's audio. And so audio comes off of pin 46 of the cartridge slot, where it then interfaces to the RF modulator, and it shits out the RF. But what's interesting is, as you can see, this is audio coming out, but audio also goes back down. And with the difference between this audio circuit, other than the resistor, and all the other audio circuits for all the other Famicoms, the reason it's more muffly is because for some reason, this capacitor right here, C24, is a 330 picofarad capacitor, and it's the only addition, it's the only difference. They ran this little bypass cap for audio all the way down here. It goes nowhere else. I can't understand that for the life of me. But if you clip this out, audio sounds crystal clear. That's all I wanted to say. A lot of people love Famicoms here, so I thought I would just mention that. C24, clip it out. Your audio will sound just as clear, and it won't have that low-pass muffly sound on your GPM 01 and GPM 02 Famicom motherboard revisions. Thank you.
That's kind of a big deal. I'm gonna have to.
I drew this out. Oh, well,
yeah,
it's okay. I drew
send it to me. I'll put that on my site. It'll go on the wiki with, that's going to be released alongside the Dreamcast HD Retrovision cables. But how many revision motherboard Famicoms are there? Is that something you should do on every Famicom?
For God's sakes, Bob, I just explained this.
You said the 2 revisions. How many original Famicom motherboard revisions are there? Just those 2?
Okay, so there's no, Bob. There's CPU There's CPU 0 through CPU 08. There are 8 revisions of the old board. And this is the new board. And there are 2 revisions that look identical to this, the GPM 01 and the GPM 02. So there are 10 revisions. For the last 2 revisions, the GPM 01 and the GPM 02, you need to change the feedback resistor, and you need to change you need to take this capacitor out of circuit. And if you do those 2 things, the audio will sound and be identical to the subsequent 8 revisions. Okay. It's like the AV Famicom's audio, how it sounds it's a lot more loud, and it muffles out other channels, especially with expansion audio. You can't fix that because that happens for a different reason, but you can totally make the audio sound identical on these last 2 revisions of the Famicom to all the older good sounding revisions. That's the only point. And I drew this out by hand, and I have a little circuit there that showed you exactly the changes and the differences. And but the gain setting resistor, changing that to affect the audio, the amplitude, that was Ace. I didn't figure out. I didn't know anything about that. He told me that. But the muffly sound, I traced this out, and it's due to C24. Why audio goes from up here all the way down here and doesn't terminate anywhere else, but it just goes to this bypass cap. I have no idea why they just didn't fit that same capacitor up here. Have no idea, but whatever. There you go, guys. Welcome to America.
TV Ben asked, I was thinking of getting an AV Famicom. Should I not be doing that?
It depends. It depends on if... What you really need to do is you need to go to YouTube and you need to listen to some audio comparisons. There are some really good videos that will show you, that will demonstrate the AV Famicom sound as it mixes expansion audio in, like with Castlevania 3, and it'll compare that to the other sort of Famicom systems. If you like the sound, get it. If you don't like the sound, and if you don't like the fact that expansion audio drowns out all the 2803 audio, you may want to consider getting another sort of Famicom. You need to listen first, though. Make your decision based on what sounds best to you. So,
on. Yeah.
I mean, with the reason you really can't manipulate that on the AV Famicom is because the AV Famicom uses an ASIC. They downscaled. There are There's these two 368 inverters here that handle sound and a few other things, and the 373 latch. They basically took 3 or 4 different chips and they consolidated it into and spun it and baked it up into one little ASIC. And you can't control things on that like you can on this. So you don't have that kind of manipulative power. So the AV Famicom, you're kind of screwed, as far as I'm concerned.
I find that sound is even more contextual than something like video or images, where if you play some audio for me, until I've heard that audio on another system where it sounds a lot better, I might not know that this actually sounds, quote unquote bad, right? It's a Genesis 2 versus Genesis 1 type thing, right? Where if I was only given a Genesis 2 and I heard the audio from that, I'm not going to go, wow, this sounds terrible. But then I put it next to the Genesis 1 and hear that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, now I know the difference.
That's why he said to go listen to those videos.
Just accentuating that point. I just feel like audio is even more so that way than video. Whereas video, I can look at something and be like, ooh, that kind of looks off. Whereas audio, I almost need the context to know a lot of times.
Well, so there you have it. You can get basically the revision of this main board I just showed you. The RF box on all other older revisions just flops around. It isn't hard soldered like this. The Nintendo basically made this to comply with new FCC standards. So this is actually a much better board in terms of like signal integrity and cleanliness. But ultimately, the fix that I'm talking about only affects the last 2 motherboard revisions, and they're not very common. There were the 2 last ones, and then the AV Famicom was shat out of Nintendo's anus. So at any rate, I like this system, and other people do too. So I love Tim Worthington too. I call him Tim Worthington out of affection. He's a great man, and he does a lot. Tim Worthington is a very nice, generous person, and I respect him very greatly. He owes me money.
Let's see. A couple people asked some stuff in the chat.
Should we ask people to start putting stuff in the chat now?
Yeah. Let's see. Crazy Manzer asked Bob, do you have more info on that PC Engine RGB thermal issue?
So if there's no input going to pin 4 or an out from pin 4, then you need to lift the pin. Or cut it or something like that. Is that the simplest way to put it, Zach?
Say that one. What was the question again? I was answering a question in chat.
The PC Engine problem, what's the simplest way to put that? If you bought the PC Engine RGB board from one of those sellers, just double check that, if it's one of the ones where nothing's going into pin 4, therefore nothing's coming out of pin 4, just cut the input pin or lift the input pin.
No,
the output pin. Sorry.
No, you want to isolate the output pin because you don't want to sink all that current down in the ground. You want to lift that. So if you have one of those boards, I recommend just taking something like an X-Acto knife. To me, it's far more precise and much thinner than a dental pick. Whatever works best for you. But the point is just to lift and isolate that pin out of circuit, and then this problem goes away.
It was the output pin that was tied to ground, right?
If it was the input pin, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Okay.
I would cut it so nobody just be like, oh, somebody didn't solder this down.
That's a good point too, because if you're the only person that's going to own that console, you're going to know better. But if someone else 10 years down the road gets in there because they need to fix something up and they're looking, they're like, oh my God, the pin on this thing's floating. Let's hammer it down. Steve's got a point. I'd cut the damn thing off.
Either cut it or just wiggle it back and forth until it breaks off.
That's what I was going to say. It's actually much safer, especially for somebody of my skill level, to lift the pin, and then once it's lifted, just wiggle it back and forth. It'll snap off, and that's it.
Yep, that's what I would do.
Just in case anybody's listening to this that didn't follow the first half, we're not talking about Zach's boards. Can we make that clear, please? We're not talking about any of Zach's boards. We're talking about the other ones. So.
Right. I would. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I've
my
been-
boards don't do that because, well, I'm a god.
QC Retro asked, "Are we talking about measuring quality?" No, because quality can't be measured.
Well said.
Obviously.
Let's see. We had a question here from. Let's see. Is there a way to update the firmware on the Eon GCHD Mark II? Yes, you can. You can. You don't need a Dremel to open up this one, so you can get the board out. And,
We'll probably talk more about that.
yeah,
next
we'll be
time.
talking more about that on the next podcast. But there are the headers on there to update.
Well, there were 2 questions before that.
Yeah,
One,
go for it. I haven't seen all of them.
I've been copying them into Notepad to see them.
Nice.
HD Miser, will it have control via RS-232? That is not planned, and probably won't be planned. When is the NES component cable coming out?
Is that a serious question?
Yeah, Bob. When are you gonna put out the NES component cable?
Yeah, Bob. 20 people are going to buy them, so that's a lot of volume for you.
The shitload.
Funny.
That's a year's worth of work.
Can I
Funny you
have
mentioned that.
Can I have Voltar's baby? Is a question.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, you can have them all.
What were the best games each of you? Hashtag Beta 2018, old or new?
Ooh.
Well, I'll answer that
Good
first
one.
because it's an easy one for me. I did that whole video with Wes from Second Opinion Games about that. But since that video has aired, I haven't liked anything that I've played at all, except the Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? Yeah, love it.
No, no
Absolutely
spoilers, please.
love that. Well, here's a couple of spoilers, Zach. So you might want to plug your ears. It's based on the Wonder Boy games,
Yep.
but with modern graphics and excellent gameplay.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I have it still wrapped in cellophane, but
Okay, sorry. I just don't. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that game, and I don't want it to be.
I didn't
Ruined
say
by you.
anything, Zach. Honestly, I didn't say anything at all. So,
But
just- yeah.
you know, other than Mario Odyssey, which Nick thinks it's maybe a little better than mediocre. I thought Mario Odyssey was a true successor, in my opinion, to Mario 64. Mario Galaxies are their own fun platforming games, but I felt that Mario Odyssey was the true sequel to Mario 64 because it was more in spirit like that game, and
Yeah.
I thought it was just phenomenal.
I wouldn't say that I thought Odyssey was mediocre. I would
Whatever.
put it as better than that, for sure.
Yeah, Nick.
I just didn't love it. Like, it wasn't revolutionary to me, like Galaxy. Whereas
You
when
know
I
what I
played
love-
Galaxy, I was like, "Whoa, this is insane."
I've missed playing. I love playing multiplayer games. And I've been playing a lot of. I played the first game. I think it was called Red Orchestra, but now they've come out. The same people made Red Orchestra. I think it's called. My God, what is the name of that game? It's something Vietnam, and it's a phenomenal multiplayer game. And I get on there and I cuss people out a lot, and but that's really the only other game that I play. I have a huge backlog of games, most notably older games that I want to get into. But I need to beat Rockman Minus Infinity eventually. But I just wanted to say nothing. I'm done.
I think the beat it that I enjoyed the most this year, and I streamed it on my channel with a friend of mine a few months ago, was Musha for Genesis. It was the first time that I played that game, and it was such a challenge. I mean, it's you can beat it in one night, but it was a real challenge, especially after having drank a few beers. And it was highly enjoyable. I mean, it was one of those. If you haven't played Musha, well, you know, it's one of those vertical shooters. But other than that, I've been playing a lot of Super Mario 3D World with my kids on Wii U.
Bob, stop typing.
And I think that's one of the best Mario games ever. I mean, the Wii U is hideously underrated.
Thank you, Renee.
I mean, all of the first party games on there are amazing. I just recently bought the Captain Toad game, which is fucking awesome, and the Mario 3D World is awesome too, and I have the Zelda remakes. I mean,
Yeah, I think people should take this opportunity right now where Wii U games are going to be super cheap.
Yeah.
There's not going to be the collector's market for them, and people are all into Switch stuff now, and just buy up the Wii U library because there's so much good stuff on there. No doubt. I really think that's an underrated console, like you said.
Yeah, totally underrated. I mean, my God, the 2 Zelda remakes, Mario 3D World, and even Bayonetta 1 and 2, those 4 or 5 games alone, more than warrant the purchase of a Wii U, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite systems. I'd rather own the Wii U, obviously, than a Wii. I think it got a lot of undeserved heat. People who just want a nice, broad game library without wanting quality games. I look at it in the same respect as I looked at the Dreamcast. Such a small, condensed library of what I consider to be mostly excellent titles.
You don't need a big library. The Wii has a big library, and most of it sucks. It's a bunch of shovelware crap. The Wii U doesn't have that. Doesn't have Dance Dance 2019 on it. The Wii U's got good stuff.
Nick, that sounds like somebody talking with a small library.
And I want to say this for the record. And let there be no confusion. Other than GBI Game Boy Advance stuff for the GameCube, the best GameCube machine, in my opinion, is the Wii U with Nintendo Don't, and I won't come off of that.
But it won't play discs. It won't play original discs, right?
I thought that the latest soft mod package would allow it to read in off the optical.
I don't know that you know what, I started hacking it for the Wii Dual video I did, and then everything that's so fucked up with that captures, I think I gave up halfway through most of that stuff, so I should revisit that.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, other than the Game Boy stuff, which I don't really give a shit about Game Boy. Other than the GameCube stuff, which I really don't give a shit about the GameCube, but not enough to merit having that system hooked up by itself. But for all the other games, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Sunshine, those play just fine on the Wii U, in my opinion, and I think they look excellent. And I'm not so much of a GameCube lover that I'm going to moan about some small video idiosyncrasies or errors if they're there. To me, it looks great.
Everyone should own a Wii U just to play Wind Waker.
Yeah, wait, this is coming from the guy who now owns a Retron 5, so well done, Zach. Great opinion.
Thank you, and your worthless YouTube channel.
Did everybody go for their hashtag Beta 2018?
I have a very hard time doing that. I really enjoyed Sonic Mania this year. I love the Uncharted series. I didn't end up really liking Last of Us that much.
Shut up.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess between Uncharted and Sonic Mania, that would kind of be where I would go.
So I haven't beaten many games. I played the Minus Infinity at Voltar's place. That was awesome. But other than that, the only other thing I played was Danganronpa. I think I played on PS4, and it's kind of like a really sick, twisted Phoenix Wright type game, and it was okay. Me and my friend Peter played it like over a course of like 3 months, like 1 hour a week, and we finally got through it, and it was interesting. But other than that, I didn't really play much. I played like 30 minutes of Tetris Effect because I got hooked on the damn Tetris stuff, but that's it.
Well, we did play about 20 seconds of Typing of the Dead.
Yes, we played a little, but we didn't beat any. I'm saying the 2 games I beat were Minus Infinity and then that Danganronpa game.
Well, I did beat Rockman 2 on stream. I guess that counts. Unlike Nick or Bob.
But that was your favorite that you beat? That was the question.
The favorite. Oh, Mario Odyssey, hands down. Oh my God, give it a shot, guys. Seriously, I'll stream on your faces.
I'm opening up my Nintendo Switch on Christmas because we bought it a few months ago, and it's a Christmas present for my kids, so I have to wait before I play it.
Damn it!
But I did buy Sonic Mania and Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. A few of them, I told my wife, okay, we don't need to wrap these. The kids won't be impressed if we wrap these. They're on the game shelf and they haven't noticed that there are Switch games in the shelf yet.
Now, Nick thinks, and I think this is why one of the many reasons, several reasons why Nick is a total moron, is Nick believes he finds Zelda Breath of the Wild to be just effectively a reskinned Skyrim. And I think that is just the most erroneous thing that I've ever heard. I think that Breath of the Wild holds more in common, or I think Breath of the Wild is more likened or akin to Shadow of the Colossus than anything with Skyrim, in my opinion. And I think Breath of the Wild is a phenomenal game. And I don't think it's fair to compare Breath of the Wild really to any sort of predecessing Zelda title because it's such a different game. Do you guys, generally out in the audience here of our 40 people that are watching, do you think it's fair to compare games that are sort of, they share the same title, but they're totally not of the same genre? I ask myself this a lot. That's a genuine question to the audience. I really want to know other people's opinions.
I think people compare Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 a lot, and they're completely different games.
I think it would be more fair to compare Zelda 1 to Zelda 2 than it would be to compare Super Metroid to maybe Metroid 1. Oh, no. Metroid Prime to Super Metroid.
Right, yeah.
I think that's more fair.
Well, I mean, if people start answering that, I'll let you know, but we're really behind on questions, so I kind of want to move.
Two things I wanted to say there. I don't think Breath of the Wild is a bad game. I think it's a great game. I just don't, it's not my favorite Zelda game. Wind Waker is just so good.
Fuck off. See, this is exactly
Get a Wii U to play Wind Waker. I'm serious. It's so good. It's just
Nick is
great
the greatest troll that has ever lived because he said this with a straight face for years, still thinking that we're going to believe him.
I agree with Nick. Wind Waker is also my favorite Zelda game. It's amazing.
And you cannot play it on GameCube once you've played the Wii U version.
It's got to be here.
Yeah, it's so
I've got
good.
it on there too. Yeah.
I have it. I still haven't played it.
It's the definitive edition.
Totally agree. This is worth owning a Wii U all unto itself, and that's not exaggerated. That is absolute honesty. Seriously.
How long does it take to beat that game, Wind Waker HD?
Oh, several hours, especially if you're a new player. I mean, it's a deep game.
But are we talking 20 or 60 hours?
Maybe 20 hours.
20. And it's a lot faster than the GameCube version because of the speed sale.
That part I did hear, yeah.
Yeah. Retro Gaming Systems Collectioner reminded me that I beat The Last Guardian this year, which is also an awesome game. I love that company.
For the NES?
No, PS4. Last Guardian is... it's a game where you have a giant dog monster thing that helps you. It's the same people that did Eco and Shadow of the Colossus.
Wasn't there an NES game called The Last Guard? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, great, Nick. Great for you. Yes,
no, it's a great game. I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, Wind Waker is better than Breath of the Wild.
You can go to fucking hell, too.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve. What questions have we fallen behind on here?
I'm going to go through some lightning round ones. When is the PS4 Pro RF cable coming out? That's probably going to be next month.
Yeah.
What is everyone's Beat It 2018 count? We kind of got that a little bit from the question. Did Bob beat Metroid yet? And I think that's going to be a hashtag Beat It 2027.
Same time as
the truth is, I went back to it once and played, because I played it for however long on the stream with the Game Boy Advance consolizer.
20 minutes.
And then I went and played it again with the game, with 20 minutes because we had to sit through an hour of the opening thing. Then I went to play it again on the Game Boy interface software afterwards, just to kind of just see. I loved that too. And then I got Monster Boy, so then I stopped playing.
I just want to say, here's a quick reenactment of the Bob stream. Hey guys, it's Bob here.
Hey, asshole, I thought you always said you wanted me to talk less. Now you're complaining.
Hey, Bob, can you turn your mic up? No one can hear you. No, I'm sorry. This is as loud as it gets. Okay.
I'm
sorry, you're right. I was.
By the way, seconded that we should all get Monster Boy. They really love that game.
give me Mega Man 11 because once again he's a moron because he
Mhm.
didn't like it because it was too hard.
I didn't get sucked into it. I started playing Monster Boy, and 10 minutes later, I was just like, well, it felt like 10 minutes later. I blinked an eye, and it had been 2 hours. Whereas Mega Man, I was just like 20, 30 minutes into that, I'm like, I want to go play another game or go work on a project.
Let me ask you this. Mega Man 11 looked shockingly like Mighty Number 9 to me. Was it similar? Because I hated Mighty Number 9 so hard.
Did you really?
Yeah,
I didn't think that game got fair press. Honestly, God, I didn't think it was that bad of a game. I thought it was pretty good. Not very inventive or innovative, but it wasn't a bad title.
I did not like it at all.
Yeah, Mighty. Well, I have Mighty on the Wii U. It's not like amazing or anything like that, but it's not terrible either.
Yeah, no, by no stretch of the imagination.
I thought it was very clunky and slow for some reason. It didn't feel as fast and intuitive as I wanted it to feel, I guess. And the cutscenes were just so miserable and crappy.
Yeah, well, whatever. Oh, is Shit Stains of the Night coming out anytime soon?
See, I've been wondering that myself. Wasn't it supposed to be out 6 months ago?
Yeah, I was going to ask that
Wait,
much earlier.
Bloodstained?
Yeah.
No. Shit Stains of the Night.
Bloodstained just hired a bunch of new developers from
Way Forward.
Yeah, Way Forward. So,
I
doubt that's coming out
development
soon.
Okay, let me just say, is this going to be another? It's going to be another 6 weeks thing. I mean, are we actually going to see anything? Because
6 weeks.
They did
6 more weeks.
They did hire David Hayter.
I'm going to quote an old post on our Facebook page when we had it. Is this another Coleco Chameleon?
I think it'll come out. I just don't think it will come out anytime soon. So.
Well, okay, so that's that. All right.
Okay.
Well,
So, great, we got one for Voltar. So there's 30 minutes for us here. Voltar, what kind of resistor would you recommend for your C-Sync PS1 mod?
C-Sync PS1. Oh, the PlayStation 1. Well, I would probably recommend. Let's see, it's a 3-volt swing on the sync, so anything between 380 and maybe 600. So it slices pretty good, around 300 to 420 millivolts. 470. Meet it in the middle.
Perfect.
And make sure you have your cap there too for isolation. That's important.
Yeah, and the 220 microfarad. I had that listed on the site too for that.
I have a question. When do you think a no-cut RGB solution for the front-loading NES will come out? What version do you think? 3D Space or the power supply mod that's in the works, or something else?
It's really.
I swear to God, Zach, that wasn't posting under another name. I swear.
The only answer I have for that is, if you run out of ammo, you can have mine. No, I'm kidding. So here's an interesting thing about that. I've been in deep talks with a few people about creating no. First of all, let me just say this. The legend himself, Bordy, has actually done a lot of this already. Why people don't use it, I don't know. I know a lot of people know about it. I think I know why. Because it's a pretty... It's these little boards that make the front loader a no-cut thing. They're pretty dense in terms of their components. And it's not something that a mere hobbyist, say, would be comfortable with putting together. So I've done some work here as of like 3 days ago, where I have sort of reinvented and reshaped Bordy's NES IGR board. Now, this board is responsible for changing the palettes and resetting the system with no modifications, no case tooling, no drilling, no palette switches. You do everything from the controller. I've redone all of that. I hand drew the schematics from scratch, and I changed a few things to make it a little more streamlined for the front loader or for any system, just make it easier to use, easier to put together. So as far as changing the interface so that you don't have to cut out a multi-out or drill a hole in the case for a mini-DIN connector, there's something that's available that Bordy's done. It's great. What Bordy's done is truly good, but it's just not very end-user friendly, and that's fine. It's not really supposed to be. So I think what I'm going to be tasked with, or somebody's going to be tasked with, is
You.
making what's available more user installer friendly and more, of course, readily available. So I think that in the next maybe 3 months, you're going to see some stuff, some things materialize that will make a front-loading, no-cut NES RGB installation uh, more tangible. So just hang on and keep your ear close to the tracks for updates. And that's not a bullshit thing. That's it's really going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's really
Shout
going to
out
happen.
to my boy Calling All in One who joined us, who has been a pioneer in the no cut mod.
Yeah.
solution.
To Greg, man.
Oh, how you
Give this
doing?
one
How
back
you
to
doing?
Greg.
Yeah, Greg just said that he's working on something related to what you were talking
I
about.
think he's working on the high def NES front loader. I think
Okay.
that's public info. That's not. I didn't
That
spoil
he says it right.
Yeah.
He says it right here. So
Yeah, Jason was going to send. Jason asked me. He was going to send me a couple of the top loader riser, the expanders. I've not gotten one yet, but I'm interested. I might do a video on something like that. I think that's a phenomenal thing that they've made. Greg has made, and I would. I'd love to do a video on that because you see me making these holes and doing these and sort of incising in the plastic, I don't like doing that. There's just not really good alternatives to that. And so the more of this stuff that makes this no cuts shit possible, the more I'll promote and more I'll promote that, and the more I hope to influence people to do the same.
okay, we got a few more, 4 more.
Hold on. I just want to say one quick thing. The Real Phoenix, Bob, to what I was saying earlier. The Real Phoenix in chat just said I did install the Bordy NES-IO, and removing the RF box was a fucking nightmare. So
Yeah.
I wasn't joshing you.
No. That's something. So to skip to the end, Zach and I talked at length about this, and I verbally abused him until he listened, and then he started to come on to the whole no cut thing, and in typical Voltar fashion, then he had 10 more better ideas than I had. So this is going to turn out to be a pretty cool project, but the one problem that people are going to have is it's not even beginner and intermediates shouldn't remove the RF. This really is more of an advanced thing when you have to remove the RF jack from the front-loading NES. But we're on it. We're working on it. We're
Sorry,
doing
Steve.
good stuff.
Go ahead. We didn't mean to interrupt. It was just important that I made Bob wise to that comment.
Okay. Does anyone have any experience with the smoothing mode on the Retrotink for 480i? I am not a fan of the Bob deinterlace look on the OSSC. I've had experience. I don't like the smoothing, but the thing with Bob deinterlace is it's very ambiguous what the actual algorithm is being used, and I know that on the analog video decoder that the Retrotink uses it has this low angle edge directed deinterlace algorithm. I don't know if the OSSC does, so you might just get better results with its version of Bob without the smoothing. So it might be worth a shot trying.
In my testing, it's game and console specific. So it's just something you have to keep messing with to see what works in whatever situation you're messing with.
I'll say this about the smoothing option. When you're dealing with old, my whole fascination with the the Retrotink is
Don't stutter.
Is it's predicated on all of these old in the background, old 8-bit and 16-bit computers that I have that only do encoded composite or S-video output. And a lot of these systems suffer from a lot of visual noise too. And the Retrotink 2X excels with all of these breadbin and all of these 8-bit computers because it does a pretty good job with the encoded video, but with the noisy stuff, especially the Commodore 64, a lot of the VIC-2 video processors are prone to terrible jail bars. Well, if you flip that smoothing switch on, it does a really good job of cleaning up a lot of these a lot of the video signals and a lot of the video distortions that you see in these old sort of 8-bit computers. So for me, that's where that is the best device for a lot of these old computers that have no RGB output. So I just wanted to say the smoothing option is great for systems that are particularly noisy and for computers that are particularly old that only do composite NES video out. Sorry.
Okay, so it's worth a shot.
Worth a shot.
Has the Sega RGB or the triple bypass been tested on a VA4 PAL Mega Drive?
I don't own any PAL systems.
Baz, the tech from Video Game Perfection, has done a few of those, but I'm still kind of confused as to how some of the installations went, and there were a few bumps in the road that had nothing to do with the quality of the installation, the board, or anything. It was third-party factors, a bad cable, bad PSU, shit like that, and I'm waiting to hear back from him on stats of the different installs that he's done and what he's run into, but unfortunately, I don't really have access to PAL stuff, only NTSC. So I've gone through a lot of testing and a lot of revisions, but none PAL. So sorry.
Yeah.
So Retro Roundtable, what hidden gems for the Wii U would you recommend?
The two games that I talked about, the two Zelda HD remakes, they're not really
Those aren't hidden
gems.
gems, yeah.
Yeah, but you're talking about a library of 12 games. Find me a hidden gem out of 12. Bayonetta 1 or 2?
I can say
Mighty. What's the one with the 100 characters?
Pikmin?
No. Well, Pikmin 3 is good on there. It was an early title.
Zombie U?
I never played the Zombie U.
Nintendo Land?
There was one I played just recently, that Derek brought over when I was doing some Wii U tests. It was NES Remix. It did this really weird thing where it changed NES levels up, and I thought that was really cool.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I need to buy that.
Yeah, I'll send you my version. I didn't like it.
Oh, thanks, Bob. Put that in the kickbacks box, please.
I will.
I picked up
my
Yoshi's
favorite
Woolly World lately.
Sorry.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Woolly World's
Yoshi's
fun.
Woolly World?
Yep.
Isn't that a Wii? No. That's Kirby's Epic Yarn for the Wii, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
I hadn't really heard of Yoshi's Woolly World until I started looking for all these, first-party games, like Nick said, before they start getting expensive, before they get into the collector market. And I mean, Woolly World on the surface looks like it's going to be like a game for a 4-year-old, but it's just so damn cute and fun. I can't put it down.
I'm telling you guys, Wii U is totally worth owning.
My favorite Wii U games were Axiom Verge and Metroid Zero Mission. So.
Oh, yeah. The Wonderful 101. That was kind of a fun game.
No one's heard of it because it sucks.
You asked for hidden gems.
Right. But that means that gem is typically analog to something that's good.
No, it's a good game. You should play it.
Okay. Well, whatever.
Wonderful 101.
When is Nick's next 50K winter run? You did 150K and you did 150 miler. Right?
I did. I'm not doing any of those anytime soon.
Voltar, when you are done cloning yourself, are you going to do that BVM/PVM series?
That's happening probably by the beginning of the new year. That's a big project. I have a PVM here that I've diagnosed with some bad caps on the deflection board. So you've got some pin cushioning, and I'm going to do a full service on a professional PVM monitor, and I'm going to make a video. I don't know if it's going to be a video series, but I'm going to do a thorough, in-depth servicing video for that particular equipment.
In this video, will you be showing the technique where you lick your finger and poke around for RGB?
That's how we look for things, Bob, in the professional community. Bob, how dare your arrogance? It's not funny, Bob. No one else is laughing.
Well done.
Yeah, we're totally going to do that.
And last question, again for Voltar. Voltar, why do you always talk 20 times more than Renee does?
That's because
that actually wasn't in the list. I added that.
He's compensating for something.
That's because Renee's a goddamn mute almost.
Quality over quantity, am I right?
Yeah, you have the song, man. That's all we need.
I made a song, yeah. See, I spent time thinking about what I'm going to say, and every word made every one of you laugh.
That's right. You were the only one that didn't have a trumpet in their butt.
Seriously,
every
Renee's
line...
song was the drop the mic moment of the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I mean, there were some flat parts, but it was okay.
Renee Renee's also the only one that wore an ugly Christmas sweater to this party.
I wore one last year too. I mean,
I could take off my shirt and it looked like I was wearing an ugly Christmas
please,
shirt.
Bob. Keep this thing PG, please.
I've been wearing an ugly Christmas sweater to work every day since December 1st.
How many do you have in your collection?
I have 7, I think.
So you're just rotating? Nice.
Yeah, like enough for like a full weekday. Yeah.
Yeah.
For a full weekday? You wear 7 a day? Never mind. Okay. Let's
You know
go
what
on.
I mean. You know what I mean.
Clearly I don't. Okay, so anyways, good talk, everyone. We're going to cut this off. I'm just kidding. We're not going to cut this off.
Well, we can cut this off. We're already
we're done.
2 hours and 10 minutes in, so.
I feel like, is there anything that you, the guys, that you want us to talk about for maybe a couple of minutes before we go? Anything fun?
Well,
Yeah, this one went really smooth. This one kind of felt fast. So anybody have anything that we missed?
There is one thing I do want to say about, if you guys have been looking on my Twitter, there's been a lot of first of all, thank you to everybody. I'm talking maybe 25 people who have installed the Sega RGB board into Model 1s, and they have been adopting some of the fixes that I've come up with. And it's very promising. There are a lot of people out there now who are running VA2, VA3, VA4 Model 1 Genesis. And those pesky gel bars and all that noise is down to maybe 8% of it, 5% of it's left. And those people are now totally satisfied with the video output, and they're really liking it. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's participated in trying some of these fixes across the board. It really has helped me out, and we're really getting the Model 1 stuff looking really, really good. So thanks a lot. And by the way, just shut up, Bob. What I'm talking about, it's not just for my board. But for Renee's too, it's just as applicable to his triple bypass. So the research here and the stuff that I've done and the analysis is just as applicable to Renee's stuff as it is mine. So keep that in mind when you're doing stuff. So it helps everybody. That's the point. Okay, Bob, you can go on.
I was just agreeing, saying thank you that you, Cruz, and I had spent a ridiculous amount of time testing this, and it's really cool to have other people jump in. And I'm looking forward to getting all of my Genesis consoles back so I could continue testing. I don't know who I might be talking to right now, Zach.
Girl Geek asked, what computer is behind you, Voltar?
Okay, so the black monitor is for the Sharp X68000. To the left of that, you're going to see Apple II GS, and the Sharp monitor is actually sitting on. This is an Amiga 4000 desktop. These two bad boys over here. These are two Commodore 64s, bread boxes, and this little jewel over here is a Hitbit. This is an MSX2.
Oh,
very nice.
Look at that.
Nice.
So it's just a bunch of old computers over here, and you can't see
a whole bunch of useless old keyboards.
Bob, the only thing that
What CPU is in the sex robot?
that's a Sex 80.
Oh, I thought it was a Sex 86.
No, it's a Sex 80 made by Sex Logs.
Is there a downside to cleaning retro systems with an ultrasonic cleaner?
It's kind of a tough question. It depends, I think, more so not on so much the way an ultrasonic cleaner works is it's just using the vibration and the moving of bubbles, basically. It's not abrasive. It kind of is, but it really isn't. To clean surfaces mechanically. I think the more important thing is not that you're doing an ultrasonic cleaning, but the solvent or solution or the liquid that you're using. As long as you're not using something caustic, either to plastics, to a printed circuit board, to silicon, to whatever, I think that you're pretty okay. I know that professionally we used to do chemical baths to a lot of older equipment that either we would have to service by hand via hand job, or we would just have to maintain ourselves because it's 20-year-old, very proprietary equipment that we didn't have an extra set up. So we did a lot of fun things like that. it really comes down to, I think, the solution that you're using to do the cleaning with. That's what I'm saying.
Alrighty, well, I think we're gonna call it. Is that cool?
I think Brasso is really the best thing that you could put on anything.
Well, you can
7
ask
cans.
Gabe. Yeah, he has 7 cans, so
Yeah, 7
He's-
cans
he's-
of brass.
it's not enough. He doesn't have a can to spare.
There you go.
I know that when a game comes through my game store and it doesn't work, Brasso's the last line of defense, and if it works, it works.
60%.
I still think that the best game cleaning video that has ever hit YouTube was the Game Sack one.
Oh yeah.
I had a hand in that.
I was
had a hand.
giggling. Of course. If it's good, you've had a hand in that. But
I mean, I pretty much wrote the whole thing. You can ask Joe.
the whole thing was pretty funny, except when he said the whole thing about the sandpaper. So, well, obviously we'd want less sand, so we're gonna have the lowest grit sandpaper possible. Oh yeah, that was by far the best game cleaning video I've ever seen.
I really like the car power wash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Vanessa,
fucking
Vanessa
well done.
Palmer asked if we could come up with a good video solution for old computers. I assume like the ones that Zachary was showing.
I mean, you can't beat perfection. I mean, the Retrotink's already doing what HD Rectal Vision can't. So honestly, these old computers, you're talking maybe like 500 people, and it's so niche as it is. 500. That's pretty arbitrary. I don't mean literally 500, but I don't think there's really a good market to make a device that's sort of proprietary to this old stuff back here.
There was a guy who was, I think it was the Tandy color computer. There was like a big group that he was a part of, and there was like 2 or 3 different solutions where people were making like a VGA out.
Yep.
Another guy with an FPGA trying to make a digital like DVI out. And so there's not a lot of people, but there's hobby projects that are in the.
And remember, I mean, that's pretty much what the OSSC is. That's a high level hobbyist's project. So stuff like that's out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, alrighty. Let's should we end it on that note?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We
great
will
year.
see everybody in 2019.
Yep.
Well, if they don't cancel us after this one.
Yeah. We're getting deplatformed. Bob's getting depatreoned.
Yeah.
We're all losing our funding.
I'm not.
Mazel tov.
Speak for yourself.
That's because they haven't discovered your alt-right leanings like my life in gaming.
Yeah, I heard about my life in gaming having a lot of deep affiliations with the alt-right. I did hear about that. I thought that was interesting. I'm like,
Yeah.
boy.
Oh boy. Oh man.
Explains a lot. I mean,
Lesson number 1 about the forums is just don't go there.
yeah, I
Don't go to any of the forums.
don't do forums and I don't do Reddit either. People are like, you shouldn't give Reddit such a bad name, but I'm sorry, Reddit can be just as cancerous and toxic.
Bob, you were doing the God of Abraham's work by going through these forums.
Yeah.
For us, yeah.
Yeah.
It did start to wear on me after a while. I'm not gonna lie.
Did you feel like a sanitary napkin after a while, Bob?
I felt like I was hallucinating on acid trying to fight the bees. That's what I felt like. Because no matter how hard you swing, you're not actually hitting anything, and you're just crazy for even trying.
Oh, God.
Well, I'm just glad I have not seen anything on the weekly roundup that came from the Reset era. I don't know how you pronounce it. Whatever. Fuck that forum. May it die.
What is that? What is that?
That's the forum where everyone left NeoGAF after the people who created NeoGAF were like found to be a bunch of weird sexual predators or something. I don't know. Point is, it sucks, and that's the place where I found that screenshot of somebody being like, "Didn't I hear that my life in gaming had ties to the alt-right?"
Yeah, I was never a fan of NeoGAF either, so I'm
Yeah.
not surprised by that.
There are forums out there where people say that they post there. And I know this is like the basis of like all the isms, but I immediately lose all respect for those people.
Yeah.
Just like yes, of course, everywhere I'm sure there's one or two bits of knowledge, but if you have to wade through shit up to your chin in order to get there, like yeah.
The problem that I have with forums, for the most part, is everybody people think that I take myself way too goddamn seriously. I don't think anyone here on the Retro Roundtable takes themselves seriously at all. This is all a bunch of fun banter and back and forth cynicism. But the problem with forums is that doesn't come across properly, and everybody, it seems like, in my opinion, has a goddamn ego that is just unrelenting, and it just becomes a haven for conspiratorial nonsense buffoonery and cancer.
When you become Lord Voltar and go off on your rants, it's hilarious, it's amazing, and it's often very educational. But when people act like that because they think that's how you're supposed to act, I'm like, oh boy.
Well, it's also the anonymity, or however you say that word, of it all.
Anonymity.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that people don't understand. It's just a shtick. You're really Lord Vol. Are you fucking serious?
That's what makes it so good.
Don't let everybody know that you're not actually Lord Voltar.
I appreciate Girl Geek's comment, which is the only person that takes himself seriously is the blow up doll.
Hey,
you leave her alone.
You leave Claire. You leave Claire out of this. Damn you.
Oh yeah, there was talk. I think. Well, Tian Fang points this out, but I think it was either on Atari Age or Nintendo Age where somebody raised
Sega
this
16.
issue. Oh, it was a Sega 16 where they raised the issue of GameSack being sexist. It's just like, come on, man. Jeez.
Yeah, it was a super SJW thread.
I loved whoever on Shmups started saying that the reason that we were critical of only Rachel's cables was because we thought this was a boys' club and didn't want girls on there. And not only did everybody else on the planet think that was ridiculous, I got an email from Rachel like, "Hey, I never said that, right? Yeah. None of us think that at all." I'm like, I know. I know.
Evidently, she lives.
Trying to be a dick.
She lives down the street from me now.
Yeah, you guys should go hang out. Nice.
So weird.
Well, all right.
Hey, somebody in the chat brought something up. Some people are a fan, some people are polarized by this, but if you're even slightly, sort of, kind of a fan of the Angry Video Game Nerd, see the last episode he just put out.
Yeah,
I don't want to
the Macaulay Culkin stuff was fun.
Oh my god, it was amazing. Yeah. I laughed so fucking hard at that whole thing.
I thought it was hilarious.
I did too. I thought it was
really good.
And I haven't laughed at an Angry Video Game Nerd episode for at least 2 years.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll be honest with you.
I don't like his content in general.
I have laughed, but not that hard.
I've not watched one of those episodes in probably 2 or 3 years too. It's just not my kind of entertainment. But the Macaulay Culkin thing was really good. I don't know, the Angry Video Game Nerd, I just liked it when it was more basic, It was just more basic. Like the Michael Myers Halloween special was great. All of the Halloween specials were amazing.
Yeah.
And it just got too theatrical. I don't know what happened, but I really enjoy the old content a great deal.
I still love the Mario 3 one. I play that for people that are only barely gamers every now and then, and they all love them.
It's so good. Yeah, the Mario 3, not the metal. Oh, Jesus.
Super Mecha Christ.
Metal Jesus.
Yeah,
oh
super. Yeah, Christ 3000. Watch your fucking language.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I love the old stuff. Love
cool,
my
man.
Penis.
Well, yeah, let's call it a night, and I guess we'll see you in the new year.
Yep.
We'll see you in the new year, guys. I had a great time. Thanks for coming all over me, and we'll see you next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And happy Saturnalia to all.
Mm-hmm. Enjoy the rest of the year. Yeah.
Yep, have a good one. Later, everybody.
See you guys.
See you guys. Everybody, bye. Bye.